Good evening, brave souls, and welcome back to Paranormal Nightshift, the edge of reality where your hair-raising experiences take the spotlight. I'm Gideon, your companion through the unknown, here to guide you past flickering shadows and hushed murmurs that roam where logic meets mystery. But before we begin tonight's haunting journey, I have something special up my sleeve. Drop by paranormalnightshift.com for a free copy of The Birth of Dimensional Desperado, the first ebook in our extraordinary Dimensional Desperado series. Join Buck Shadow Sheriff Freeman as he embarks on time-twisting missions and stands guard against the supernatural at every turn. Trust me, you don't want to miss that wild ride. Let's dim the lights and pull back the curtain on tonight's story. We have a gripping encounter, a shapeshifter in the night, shared by one of our listeners, Cody. Prepare to question every rustle in the dark, every twig snap, because what Cody faced on a secluded Kansas road may leave you looking over your shoulder long after the lights go out. I've worked swing shifts at the local refinery for years, so my internal clock is out of whack. One week I'm on days, the next on nights, and sometimes it feels like I'm in a permanent haze of exhaustion. That night or early morning, I clocked out just before 5 a.m. The refinery sits in a rural corner of Kansas, where the sky stretches wide and the fields roll on for miles. By that hour, the horizon was still plunged in winter darkness. No hint of dawn anywhere. My body moved on autopilot as I made my way to the parking lot. A few trucks and SUVs dotted the rows, their owners probably as tired as I was. The cold air hit me when I stepped outside, and I tugged my jacket closer. Despite the chill, I was eager to leave and collapse into bed. It was about a 20-minute drive from the refinery to my house, and that long, lonely road usually gave me time to wind down. I settled into my SUV and started the engine, letting it idle momentarily. My breath fogged in the frigid cabin. I could almost see the frosty puffs hanging in the air. The dashboard clock blinked at a somber 5:04 a.m. "All right," I muttered. "Let's get moving." I shifted into gear and pulled out onto the two-lane highway that leads away from the refinery. Kansas might be flat as a pancake in some places, but where I live, it's a patchwork of farmland, cattle pastures, and small towns that seem frozen in time. The stretch between the refinery and my home has wide-open fields on either side, dotted by the occasional stand of trees or old fence line. Sometimes a pair of glowing eyes belonging to a deer or raccoon will reflect my headlights. But the road looked empty that morning. Just me, the asphalt, and the distant silhouettes of leafless trees swaying in the wind. I drove silently, too tired to tune the radio, letting the engine's hum fill the void. The pitch-black sky overhead felt like a blanket pressing down, offering no clues to the time of day. It was a little eerie, but I'd done this drive countless times, so a certain familiarity dulled my nerves, until I reached the spot about 8 miles from work. On my right was a field that ended abruptly at a dense hedge of trees. I often found it curious how the tree line appeared out of nowhere. I'd see it clearly in daylight, old cottonwoods and twisted oaks, branches forming an arch-like canopy. But it loomed like a jagged wall in the dark, something out of a shadowy painting. I was doing about 55 miles per hour, not too fast, given the speed limit was a little higher. My mind started drifting, picturing the coffee I'd make once I got home, when suddenly, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a flash of movement. Something significant barreled out from the trees directly toward my vehicle. Time seemed to slow in that split second. Instinctively, I jerked the wheel. My headlights caught the creature mid-leap, a massive, wolf-like animal, more significant than any coyote I'd ever seen, with glowing yellow eyes that looked downright menacing. It collided with my SUV's passenger side, with force rattling me to the core. The impact wasn't a glancing blow either. The entire vehicle lurched sideways, tires squealing as I tried to keep control. My heart hammered so fiercely it almost hurt. I could hear the scrape of metal on something, maybe claws, and for a moment the SUV fish-tailed. I fought the wheel, my hands clammy, adrenaline fueling every reflex. In my rearview mirror, I saw something dark tumbling away from the headlights, but it was too brief to register. My SUV swerved across the center line before I steered back into my lane. The road was otherwise empty, probably saving me from a worse disaster. By the time I stabilized the vehicle, the creature, whatever it was, had vanished from sight. My entire body trembled with an uneasy mix of fear and shock. "What the hell was that?" I whispered, glancing at the passenger side windows, half expecting to see a monstrous face glaring back. But there was only darkness outside. A knot in my stomach told me to keep driving until I reached some form of civilization. The next little town was about 3 miles down the road, a blink-and-you-miss-it place with one main street, a few scattered shops, and a single streetlight by the post office. My SUV was still shaking, or maybe it was just me. I forced my eyes back on the road, praying the creature wasn't lying injured on the pavement behind me, or worse, about to chase me. The faint streetlight was like a beacon of safety when I rolled into the small town's limits. I pulled under its glow and cut the engine. It was eerily silent except for the distant hum of a nearby transformer or power line. Gathering my courage, I stepped out to inspect the damage. My breath hung in the cold air as I surveyed the passenger side. Sure enough, there was a noticeable dent, maybe the size of a basketball, with dust and road grime scuffed away in a vertical streak that spanned almost the entire door height. My mind reeled at the force it must have taken to cause that much damage. I ran my hand along the dented metal and shuddered, picturing those substantial yellow eyes again. Despite my trembling legs, I decided I had to go back. If I'd hit an animal, it might be suffering or still alive, possibly dangerous. Plus, some of me needed to see if it was just a coyote. But deep down, I suspected it was something else entirely, something that defied the typical wildlife I was used to. I slid back into the driver's seat and started the SUV, the engine's rumble feeling oddly reassuring. Driving the 3 miles back felt like entering a tunnel of dread. My headlights swept across the shoulder and fields, searching for any sign of movement or a body on the road. When I reached the hedge of trees, I slowed to a crawl, flicking on my high beams. Nothing, just the dark mass of tree trunks and a few stray branches bending in the breeze. My heart pounded in my ears as I pulled off to the side. I grabbed my pistol from the center console, more for the attached flashlight than the firearm itself. I didn't want to shoot anything. I just needed to see better. Another wave of cold fear washed over me as I stepped onto the gravel shoulder. My boots crunched on the dirt and rocks, the sound thunderous in the pre-dawn quiet. I crept to the edge of the tree line, shining my pistol's light around. Twisted roots snaked across the ground, and brambles tugged at my pant legs. After a few moments, I spotted something. Disturbed earth and crushed grass, a telltale sign something big had plowed through. Broken branches hung at odd angles overhead, fresh splinters reflecting my light. Whatever had been here was strong enough to snap limbs as thick as my wrist. Yet there was nobody, no blood, no fur, no sign of an actual dead or wounded animal. The tracks seemed to vanish more, plunging into the cluster of trees, and my gut told me not to follow. There was an oppressive stillness about the place, as if the environment warned me to turn around. My thoughts raced. Could a regular coyote be that huge? Could a wolf or even a large dog cause that kind of damage and then just vanish? An image flashed through my mind, tales of skinwalkers, shapeshifters, or werewolves prowling the night. Superstitious nonsense? Maybe, but I couldn't shake the hollow feeling gnawing at my insides. It was the same sensation you get when you know you're being watched, even though you can't see who or what is there. I didn't linger. With hands trembling, I holstered the pistol and jogged back to my SUV, headlights illuminating the jagged shadows of the hedgerow. I slid into the driver's seat, locked the doors, and took a few seconds to steady my breathing. In my mirror, the narrow corridor of the road behind me seemed to go on forever, swallowed by darkness. Maybe it was my imagination, but I thought I saw a flicker of movement in the trees, a silhouette shifting just beyond the reach of my headlights. I threw the SUV into drive and eased back onto the highway, picking up speed as I distanced myself from that spot. Once I was safely on the road home, a gnawing curiosity told me I'd never see that creature again. Or if I did, I might not live to tell the tale. My heart only settled when I finally parked in my driveway, the early morning sky just beginning to lighten. I fell into bed without even taking off my jacket, drifting into uneasy dreams that replayed the impact repeatedly. From that day on, every time I work nights, I take extra care when passing that stretch of road. Sometimes I'll slow down instinctively, my hands tensing around the steering wheel as I approach the thick wall of trees. It's been a while since the collision, yet the memory remains crystal clear in my mind. Those piercing yellow eyes, the force of the impact, the unsettling emptiness left behind. I still don't know what I encountered that night. Was it just a freakishly large coyote, a severely lost wolf, or something that slipped through a crack in reality, showing itself for only a heartbeat before retreating back into the shadows? Kansas has its fair share of wildlife, but the lingering sense of dread I feel whenever I pass that hedgerow doesn't come from coyotes alone. Call me superstitious, but part of me believes I brushed against something from legend. A skinwalker or a werewolf, perhaps. All I know is that I can't shake the fear that it's still out there, waiting, and I can't help but feel my stomach drop every time I see that line of trees looming up in my headlights, reminding me just how thin the barrier between our world and the unknown can be. We never think it'll happen to us until it does. One moment, you're driving home from work. The next, you're caught in an encounter that defies all logic. Whether it was a large predatory animal or something far more supernatural, the experience remains deeply etched in my mind. If there's a lesson here, it's this. Sometimes the night hides more than just darkness, and once you see something unexplainable, every rustle in the trees will make you wonder what truly walks among us. And with that, dear listeners, we conclude yet another foray into the eerie and unexplained. Cody, we can't thank you enough for stepping into the darkness with us and unveiling your unforgettable brush with the unknown. If tonight's tale left you craving more suspense and mystique, there are plenty of ways to show your support. By joining our Patreon, you'll gain ad-free listening, priority access to the next dimensional desperado adventure, and a handful of extra perks that make your journey into the strange and supernatural all the more thrilling. For those not quite ready to pledge, no worries. Subscribing to us on Spotify or YouTube is a fantastic way to stay connected. Don't forget to drop a comment with your thoughts. After all, your feedback fuels our ongoing quest to shine a light on the hidden corners of reality. And if you're longing to immerse yourself even further in the time-twisting exploits of Buck Shadow Sheriff Freeman, be sure to visit paranormalnightshift.com and grab your free copy of The Birth of Dimensional Desperado. It's the perfect companion for anyone daring enough to tiptoe across the boundary between what we know and what we can only imagine. Remember, if you've got your own story simmering beneath the surface, don't hesitate to submit it at paranormalnightshift.com. Who knows? Your tale might be the next one to send shivers down the spines of curious minds everywhere. Until next time, keep your eyes on the shadows, your heart open to the mysteries that dwell within them, and your courage ready for the stories yet to be told here on Paranormal Nightshift.